I wouldn't like you in real life. You would irritate the fuck out of me. My betrayal at their hands, and I'm like, I didn't know that, but now I do. You just spoiled it for me. Why? Well, hello. Welcome back to my channel. Just Shauna here to talk about some friggin' books that I have read recently. We got a couple of DNFs, and this is just, I'm just gonna tell you right now, this is a fair amount of kind of underwhelming books for me from September. Yeah, I was on a kick of like, meh, reads for a hot minute here, which is a bummer, always, of course. Like and subscribe if you feel so inclined and have not already. And of course, also you can turn on the little bell to be notified when I upload. I don't know what's been happening this year, but other booktubers I've talked to have also noted this, that like views are down like crazy for the last like 6 months in a weird way, where like a year ago, same time, my view, I mean, I've never gotten like a lot of views on my videos, but it's like cut in half compared to last year around the same time. And it's been like this for several months. It's very weird. I don't know if YouTube is like not showing people's videos. I don't know what the hell it is, but maybe it's just people are so distracted and don't want to be watching videos. I don't know. That it would be understandable also. But if you do care to watch my videos, maybe turn on the bell to just make sure you're aware. But getting into the books, the first one is a DNF, and that is Anxious People by Frederik Backman. I know, okay? And I've had this book sitting on my shelves for what feels like 87 years. It hasn't been. It's been a couple years though. And this is very beloved. This is contemporary fiction. Some people say it's literary fiction. I don't know if I would say it's literary fiction. I got 12% into this book, and I just was not vibing with the writing style at all. It felt very chaotic, I guess. And sometimes there were just way too many like very short clipped sentences, one right after another for like an entire page. The example I wrote, and this is not actually, but this is what it felt like reading it to me. Jack did X, then Jim did Y, then Jack said XYZ. Jim replied ABD. Jack didn't like that. Jim didn't care. Jack said something else. Jim replied something back. The other person in the scene did something else. Again, not a literal quote from the book or even paraphrase, but it's just, that's how it felt to me. That's how the writing style was reading for me personally. And I already was immensely, viscerally annoyed with most of the fucking characters. The realtor acting like she had just done like several lines of coke, one right after the other. Like she was acting crazy. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, what are you going on about? Are you good? And I get she was like feeling some trauma, but it was just weird. I don't know. And then the 20-year-old bank teller who sounded like a 12-year-old, which to be fair, a different character did point that out, but then it was just brushed off as like he was 39. So the difference between 14 and 20 didn't seem so large. But like I'm 39, and yeah, 20-year-olds do often sound quite obviously very young to me when they're talking, but they don't sound like 12-year-olds. There's still a difference to me. Hearing some middle schoolers talking to their friends and a 20-year-old, like, they both sound young, but like one sounds like a fucking 12-year-old, you know? And so yeah, I just don't think this book is for me. I could tell I was just gonna be stressed out and irritated as all fuck. So I just cut my losses. And I was like, nope, gonna be unhauling this one. So sorry. I know it's very beloved. Bummer times. Then I got a NetGalley e-arc. I didn't know this book was even happening, or I forgot if I did know. Roger informed me that Saara El-Arifi has a new book coming out next year called Cleopatra. And he was like, I requested it from NetGalley, you should too, so that we can buddy read it, and that is what we did. The summary of this one: Saara El-Arifi reimagines one of the world's most famous women in Cleopatra, bringing to life the last pharaoh of Egypt in a heart-wrenching and powerful new epic. After the death of her father, 19-year-old Cleopatra is thrust upon the throne, unaware of what the next 20 years would bring. Blessed by the goddess Isis, Cleopatra's reign is plagued by Roman intervention that even her deity cannot stop. She must navigate the Roman civil war, the wrath of the gods, but most of all, the lure of love. And yeah, I kind of disliked this one. It's like on the lower end of mid-range, kind of disliked. Themes here that I saw of power, of course, faith, religion, women being vilified throughout history, and, you know, history being written by the victors and those in power, and just sexism in general. And yeah, the TLDR here, the short version, it was middle of the road for me throughout most of the book, but the ending kind of brings it down to a dislike level. The epilogue kind of pissed me off because what was that? No. And Roger felt the same way. I finished it and was like, oh God, I can't wait for him to finish it because he's gonna be like, what the fuck was that? And he was. So for the writing, there's like a breaking the fourth wall narrative choice here that I just didn't love, where Cleopatra, she's like telling her life story and like from the grave, I guess. And so she's telling her life story and she'll interject and like talk to the reader and be like, well, as you know from your history books, right? Or your books have it wrong, or so-and-so, the blah, blah. And I'm just like, it was a little weird. It didn't bother me too much for the most part, but it did pull me out of the story. And what I didn't like about it, though, is that she would like she would spoil things. Like, I know of Cleopatra, of course, and I know vaguely parts of her life. Like, I knew she was involved with fucking Caesar and Mark Antony. Like, I knew that stuff, but I don't know the finer details of her life and the people surrounding her and the betrayals that happened. But she would like there would be a scene playing out and like this and this person is here. And then she would like talk to you as the reader and be like, well, and you know what happens there, my betrayal at their hands. And I'm like, I didn't know that, but now I do. You just spoiled it for me. Why? Like, for what? And she just kept doing that throughout the book. And it almost felt like a book that was written for people who are like intimately familiar with Cleopatra's life and who those things like won't be spoilers for. Like, if you know these things, it's not a spoiler, and maybe it's like a fun, ooh, yeah, I know that's coming. But for someone like me who's like, I don't know that, now I know that they're gonna betray you, like, why not just wait for it to play out? Why are you telling me ahead of time? What's the point, you know? And I have not read any other Cleopatra-based fiction. So for the characters and the character development and, like, how she was portrayed, I don't have anything to compare it to. But I don't know, I didn't like this version of Cleopatra, really. She was always telling us how ruthless and cruel she became and all this stuff, and that she was more than just her sexuality and her dalliances. But I didn't see anything other than her being mostly soft and naive and hyper fixated on her dalliances. Like, that's what the book was. So I'm like, are you ruthless and cunning and more than just that? Because I believe she was, of course, but like the book wasn't showing me very much of that. It was mostly romance. And like, I don't know, and I don't even know how much is fully like known for a fact about Cleopatra, right? But this version of her, she was kind of stupid, honestly. And maybe oblivious is more accurate there, and maybe that is pretty accurate to who she was as a real person. But like, she just could not learn a lesson to save her life, I tell ya. And okay, for the plot and the pacing. Having the reveal in the ending, in the epilogue, it just felt kind of like a cheap trick to me. It irritated me and made me annoyed that we could have had that story. I'm trying to be vague here. I wish that this book had been maybe like the first third, catching us up on Cleopatra's life, you know, an overview of her life and things that happened and the betrayals that she suffered. And then the rest of it was like playing out what we got in the epilogue. That's what I'll say. It felt like the author wanted to play around with like what if theories surrounding Cleopatra's death. But if you want to play with that, actually play with that. You know, that's just how it felt to me. It felt very tacked on and like out of nowhere and just kind of annoyed me, I guess. I think it would have been way more fun than what we got in this book, in my opinion. I don't get what the point of it was. Like, it seemed like you wanted to play around with that, but then like actually play around with it. You didn't really. So yeah, I just wish we'd gotten more showing like the intricacies of her political strategy, her military strategy, and less of the romance stuff. Like, I know that stuff was important, but I don't know. It didn't work for me. And I think that one's coming out like summer of next year. And then another one from the reading vlog that I may or may not have put out already, or may or may not put out in general, of reading books that I have seen booktubers talk positively about and that I added to my TBR because of them. So like booktube recommendations. And this one was from Monet, who doesn't post anymore, hasn't posted in a long time, but Monet Reads, I think is her channel name, or Books with Monet. I'll have her tagged, obviously. But the book in question is Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman. This one is fantasy, historical, pretty dark. It's tagged also with horror on Storygraph. I don't know if people actually consider it to be horror. It's kind of grim dark, I would say, for sure. The year is 1348. The Black Death ravages France, leaving fields and rivers choked with unburied dead and causing whole towns to disappear. Thomas, a disgraced knight, roams the land with a band of thieves living by the sword. When they encounter an orphaned girl in a dying village, Thomas has just enough humanity in him to save her from his colleagues. No ordinary child, this girl sees angels and talks to the dead. She tells Thomas that Lucifer and the fallen angels have risen in a new war on heaven, that the kingdoms of men have fallen behind the lines of battle, and that he must now shepherd her on a holy quest to tip the scales in favor of good. Between Two Fires invites you on a journey that is at once a fool's errand into great danger and a violent man's first uncertain steps toward redemption. So I got into this book, I got 42% into this book, and I chose to DNF. And like, it's just not for me. I think very, very cynical. And like the grimdark elements of it, it was just like super cynical, kind of gross, and just ridiculously bleak for me. And I'm pretty anti-religion personally. You know, no shade to anyone who is. I have family members who are very religious, my own mother. But reading this like historical fiction fantasy steeped in Christian mythology is just, I was like, I don't care, like whatever. Mostly though, I just wasn't invested in the story. At 42% in, I just didn't really care about what was going on or what was happening to the characters, so I cut my losses. Then I reread Farilane. I'm actually not gonna hold it because this bitch is heavy. Farilane is book 2 of Michael J. Sullivan's The Rise and Fall series, which is in the larger world of Elan. Timeline-wise, like in the world, it falls between the Legends of the First Empire series, wherever the fuck it is, and the Rhaeria books. So it's in between those. And yeah, this was a reread. Really enjoyed it. Still on reread. I am behind on my own read-along. I might give up. I'm not gonna lie. Is anyone shocked? I doubt it. And not because I'm not enjoying these books, I'm enjoying them less on this reread, and I think it's just due to mental headspace, you know, and like a reread being difficult to like grab me in the same way because like I kind of already know what's happening, you know what I mean? But I love Farilane as a character. And this book in particular, I really love because of a certain character and the ending, like, a favorite, definitely a favorite still, for sure. And yeah, it's fantasy, it's high fantasy, epic fantasy, whatever. And all of Michael J. Sullivan's books are a little bit more like traditional fantasy vibes, you know? So if you're in the mood for that, check it out. Really love it. Then I read another NetGalley e-arc that I had. This is a book coming out next year, I think early next year. And the book is Sheer by Vanessa Lawrence. Unclear why I even requested this. I think just because it's like, was touted as literary fiction and like the premise sounded like, oh, that could be fun. The summary synopsis: Maxine is the founder and leader of a very popular beauty cosmetics brand, but then a scandal leaves her position with the company in question. It's up in the air. Is she gonna be axed? She doesn't know. And she's just looking back at how her career began, starting with her childhood inspiration, all the way up to the scandal in question and like how she got to that point, all right? Themes here that I saw: white feminism, it's on full display, sexism, women in leadership, carving your own path, judgment, call-out culture is talked about here. Not sure in a way that I loved, but whatever. And yeah, I kind of disliked this a little bit. Definitely at least on the lower end of like, it was fine, but I kind of disliked it. The TLDR is that like, I guess I just don't really know what the point of this was meant to be. Max was not very likable to me at all, and I don't think she was really supposed to be, so like that's fine. But I'm just not the biggest fan of following a truly unlikable character, like kind of a dick, you know? I can get behind characters who maybe are morally gray, or people don't like them because they don't understand them or something, but she just was like, I wouldn't like you in real life. You would irritate the fuck out of me. Just kind of a jerk. She was very harshly judgmental of women who didn't fit into her specific idea of female empowerment. And rather than have like productive conversations about things, she just doled out criticisms and sneered at everyone. And she's also kind of a dumbass. I didn't find this story of success very interesting at all. It was kind of like, okay, cool success story. I don't know, she was dumb. For the writing, the authorial voice felt a little bit too much like I was just reading kind of a play-by-play manual of the character's life, and it's the character writing down her story as part of her, like, she's waiting to hear the verdict on like what's gonna happen to her at her company. And so she's like, I'll write it down. So it's like her telling her story, and it just feels, I guess it's like, makes sense. She's not a writer, so whatever. But like, why would you write your book like that? I don't know. It just didn't feel all that personal. And yeah, for characters, Maxine just kind of sucks, man. Like, she was supposed to be this like boss-ass businesswoman, but she had no desire to actually learn anything about running a business at all. She was even going to school to like get a business degree. And then she's out here signing contracts without even attempting to read them. Like, I would also be confused by legal jargon, but even in my early 20s and someone who didn't have any desire to like run a business, like I would have enough know-how to attempt to look at this contract and decipher what it says, or ask around, find someone who might be able to help me, like, figure it out, use the internet. Like, I wouldn't just blindly be like, well, I should trust this person that I barely know and I haven't even known for... And this benefactor that was, like, having her sign this contract wasn't even very nice to her up until this point. So I'm just like, stupid, stupid, stupid. Why is this interesting? And the scandal stuff, without getting too into it, but like, probably not that many of you are even interested in this book. Everything with Amanda, just like, oh my God, oh my God. It's just hard for me to believe. It's hard for me to root for someone who's this fucking idiotic. Like, why would any of this stuff have ever seemed like a good idea? Messing around with employees when you're the owner of the fucking company. Oh my God. And like, maybe I'm coming to it from my 2025 viewpoint. Maybe in the early aughts, I would have been more able to excuse it also. But again, I feel like even in my early fucking 20s, certainly in my mid to late 20s, which is when things started happening with this other character, I would have known that getting involved with a fucking employee is a bad idea. And like, I actually did know that because I was a fucking assistant manager working retail, and there was another manager that I worked with who was rumored to have been messing around with one of the 18-year-old employees. And I knew that was not cool if it was happening. I didn't know if it was happening for sure, but like everyone was talking about it. Like, is this really because if so, like that's fucked up, right? Like I knew even then in my mid-20s, I'm just like, what are you doing? And like Max was just sexualizing Amanda like crazy before anything even started. I'm just like, why would you ever think that this was okay to think about and interact with an employee in this way? And you're like, oh, I didn't know. Like, dummy. And there was something semi-interesting initially about seeing her point of view, like seeing how someone on the other side of a scandal like this could misinterpret things, I guess. But I could tell that she was an unreliable narrator, like right off the bat, obviously. She was just like willfully ignorant. People were bringing things up to her that she should have been like, oh yeah. Like she should have clocked it coming from a mile away, and she just didn't. And yeah, for the plot and the pacing, all of this, and like I honestly probably would have DNF'd it if it wasn't in that Galley E arc. I was pretty bored throughout most of it. Like I said, her success story wasn't all that interesting in the first place. And then the epilogue just felt incredibly unearned. And it did not endear me to Maxine in the fucking slightest. I get that she wasn't doing any wrongdoing maliciously and like intentionally, but she just should have been way more aware and observant of the people around her in the first place, and like of the situations that she's putting other people in. She was just so oblivious and dumb. I'm just like, what was the point of this? You know, that's kind of how I felt. I don't feel like I learned anything about life or like human relationships. I didn't see anything interesting or fascinating happening here. So it just wasn't it for me, man. That is gonna bring us to the end of this video. Yeah, very wah-wah for this one. I either DNF'd or didn't like, or Farilane also, but that was a reread. Let me know if you have read any of these or have any of these on your TBR, what your thoughts were, or of course, leave an emoji if you just want to say hey. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.